Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 388. Let's see what shows up here. So okay, we'll draft this Ezreal with this trial. I know over the weekend with the Twitch streams, I definitely got a Rek'Sai one out there. I don't think I posted it to YouTube, but you can watch the replay on Twitch if you want. I messed up the chat box on it, and so I thought it felt like really weird if there wasn't like a whole lot of context to the words that were being said. And so, oh my God, come on, bud, come on. Cat just clawed the shit out of my legs. You gotta love these things. And then as we continue forward, this Demacian Steel Garen we actually drafted in the previous. Well, I guess it would have been 2 videos ago. We drafted this Garen, and so if you're looking for how to turn a bad draft into a good trial, that was a pretty good Garen run. But we'll be drafting this Ezreal here out of the cloning program. So let's take a moment and get this pulled up on the site. Might be messed up on the site here. We're just over here at ftpbus.com, but I don't remember switching this over to Ezreal. Yeah, it's probably still stuck down here with Vi, but I think it's probably correct beyond that. I remember coming in and making these updates and having the Sumpworker in here. And so outside of the champion, this is the correct card pool. And so there's, kind of 2 things going on here. We can either, look to do a full Ezreal build around, in which case I really want to find units that can target our opponent's units. And so if you're trying to flip your Ezreal, you can't just sit around and spend 6 spells to get him to flip and then start doing his thing. The way that I prefer to do it is with units that can target. And so something like the Frostbite Archer out of Freylord, or the Stun Spider out of Noxus. We could even look to Shurima now, I believe. I can't remember if the Vakuran Safecracker would flip an Ezreal or not, but maybe that's another option. Or we're looking for spells that can multi-target, and so the likes of Harsh Winds, Make It Rain is the big one out of Bilgewater. Just these spells that don't make it so we have to play a total of 6 spells to flip our Ezreal. That's kind of deck idea number 1 we could chase down. Number 2 would be kind of the P and Z elusives. And so the Kyrie and Sumpworker does live in this card pool. This is a fantastic unit to be out here building around. That's kind of what this card pool is intent to be doing. You can be using the Sumpworker with iterative improvements. What are these other ones? The counterfeit copies, which we don't like, and practical perfectionists, which we do. But there's a handful of ways to actually make copies of the Sumpworker. And then kind of otherwise, there's some pretty good just aggressive units in general. And then over here, there should be some elusives. And so I don't think the good ones live here. I was looking for the 2/3 for 3 and then the Sumpworker, but it doesn't look like either of those live here. But what we tend to run into at any rate with these Sumpworkers is our opponents blocking our ground units makes it kind of irrelevant. Like the Sumpworker tends to come in and just kill all of our opponent's ground units. And so they just kind of get free blocks whenever these things are attacking. So if you're wanting to do damage in combat, you kind of need all of your units to have elusive. So those are kind of the ideas here. Oh my gosh, kitty! We'll see what comes out of this, or as usual, we may even just pivot away from Ezreal. But let's take a look. So okay. So how are we going to do this? I'm not a huge fan of Sejuani here. Kind of the thing we'll talk about frequently is if you actually want to take the same pairing as the other champion. I should say the same faction pairing. And so this cloning program Ezreal pairs up with Anivia out of Freylord. That's so we're guaranteed to see a Freylord pick in the second pack. But do we really want to be seeing Freylord cloning program packs? I mean, if we want to just dive in and go after Elnix, then we could probably look to do that. But if we're really just trying to chase down Kyrie and Sumpworkers, then we do not. And so it's kind of interesting here with the Sejuani. Some of these plunder type cards do work reasonably well with Ezreal. We have ballistic bots to activate on our opponent's turn. We have all these burn spells, Ezreal generating mystic shots. Like we can pull these things off. And kind of a second thing is we could perhaps find things like the Icevale Archers, and I believe the Marksman lives in Cloning Program as well. So this could, I think I've kind of convinced myself that this could be a good Ezreal build around. This is just not something you'd want to do if you were, say, trying to force the Sumpworkers, and so it's probably pretty important to make that distinction before you get into the draft, because the problem that you of course run into is if we're trying to maximize our chances of finding Sumpworkers, we want all of the Cloning Program packs that show up to be Piltover only. And so whenever a Freylord Cloning Program pack shows up, that reduces our chances of finding Sumpworkers. And so I do think this is a reasonable Sejuani. It's just we have to kind of keep in our minds that the Sumpworkers probably aren't what we're going to be chasing after. And then she works with Sejuani, right? She doesn't say target, but I'm pretty sure that Sejuani works with Ezreal. But as far as these other ones, I'm not super interested in Callista. This would just be basically abandoning Ezreal to chase down Callista. This would be similar to what Death's Door Ezreal is meant to do with all of the removal spells in Shadow Isles. But again, I don't like using that 1-for-1 removal spell as our ways to flip Ezreal. And then I was initially kind of looking down here at this Riven, but I don't think this pairing is quite good. This would be something we'd want to do if we're building towards Victor. Victor and the augments are really happy with the likes of the Reforge mechanic. So we're going to swing our way back here and pick up this Sejuani. I think we'll still plan to build towards Ezreal since we did just draft Sejuani in the previous video, but I want to come in and see if there's any potentially useful things here. And so the big things we're looking for are units that can target. And so we're looking for the Frostbite Archer or the Avarosian Marksman. Neither of those live here. And then we're just kind of looking for spells that could perhaps multi-target. So like Harsh Winds doesn't live here. The only targetable spell in this one is the in the Cold. And so not a whole lot of synergies that way, but we can try and take advantage of the Plunder mechanic to a degree, right? We have ways to... I was looking for the wolf. Was this a suit up or was this a raiding party we were in? This is a raiding party. Let me switch it over real quick. Shouldn't make too much of a difference, but I think the same things still apply. We don't have any targetable effects, and we don't have any of these units that we're looking for. But we can pull this up with Anivia real quick, and I think she can. We're looking for things like the Avarosian Marksman. This comes into play and targets something. We're looking for Harsh Winds, which can target two things. And potentially, since we are in Freylord here, we could look to build towards the Elnix with this cloning program strategy that we have here. So lots of different things we can do. Let's see how this plays out here. Okay, and so, man, this one's tough. It's like I don't want either of these packs on the outside. The Raiding Party pack, these cards are just too weak. Then we're not going to be doing anything with the puff caps, and so that kind of pushes us here to the middle. I mean, I guess technically, if you're out here building towards Sejuani, you can take advantage of the puff caps, right? If you pop a puff cap on your opponent's turn, it levels up Sejuani and can even level up her flip ability. I don't think that's what we want to be just chasing down right from the get-go, though. Curious if the swap bot counts as a target for Ezreal. If you pick one of your opponent's units, if that counts as a target, right? It has to target enemies, maybe. And then we do have the Sumpworker here, so we'll just have to see if these are going to kind of fall our way. Oh man, so many interesting things coming out of this. We could have, if the packs would have fell exactly the same, which is no guarantee, we could have built, quite towards this puff cap thing with Sejuani, but with our second Sumpworker here, this is really kind of, shaping up the way our deck is looking to go. And oh man, this is wild. I was initially looking at the Marksman here with a targetable spell, but we have our third Sumpworker, and so we are all in on the Sumpworkers at this point. And so with this, I don't really want any of these expensive cards in our deck. We don't have the choices with the Mechanist, but we really want to keep our curve super low with this style deck, and I really like trying to turn it into something pretty aggressive. We'll see if those things kind of bring themselves to a head here, but I don't like having these expensive cards in our deck when we're just building towards Sumpworkers. At any rate, what do we got here? I don't think we have any discard themes for the Baboon. I don't think we'll be chasing down Jinxes or anything, but this is a viable theme, with like the Ballistic Bots and the Baboon and playing towards discards. And so I guess Brittle Steel Alpha Wildclaw it is. Now, I did just say that I don't want expensive cards, but I can be kind of okay with the likes of Sejuani and Alpha Wildclaw. If you swing back to a thing we briefly mentioned earlier, in that what tends to happen is you start attacking with Sumpworkers. The Sumpworker AOE is going to kill off all of your opponent's units in the middle of combat, and so they just have free blocks, right? And so it's kind of counterintuitive to load up your board with a bunch of ground units while you're attacking with the Sumpworkers, because your opponent just throws units that are going to die anyways in front of your units. But you can't get around that with Sejuani and the Overwhelms, right? This is something we talked about in our previous video quite a bit. As far as using Anivia with Overwhelms. Kind of the same thing applies here with the Sumpworker. And so I am kind of okay with picking up Alpha Wildclaw. It's not the most idealist unit of choice, but it's something we can maybe make usage of. Okay, and Sumpworker number 4, we've gotta keep chasing him down. All right, the chance to make a choice here, and so kind of interesting with the Iceborne Legacy. I don't think we want this, but as if the Sumpworkers weren't enough, maybe you do need to give them all +2/+2. But at any rate, I think I want the Trapper down here. Pretty happy to pick these up essentially any time. Does have a targetable interactive ability with Caught in the Cold. Although we don't have any predicts to really take advantage of these felines, so I think we're good with the Trapper. Okay, and speaking of not having predicts, the Perfectionist is a fantastic unit here. These are great ways to try and copy your Sumpworkers. Quite happy to pick this up. Okay, well, we haven't completely abandoned Ezreal yet. I'm happy enough to pick up some of these early game targetable abilities. Again, we don't want this late game stuff, and Karina is just off the table. Games definitely shouldn't be going that late. Okay, interesting set here as well. It's like, as far as these volunteer Elniks go, I'm kind of interested, kind of not. Like, it's kind of counterintuitive to put these shuffle cards into your deck if you're trying to, target the Sumpworkers as much as possible. You don't really want to be diluting your deck with these rando Elniks. But it does come with the iterative improvement, which works quite well with the Sumpworkers. But I think we can just take additional Perfectionists. These investigators work pretty well as a late game choice, given that we have 9 2-drops at this point. We'll probably get up to 10 or 12 or so. And so it can be a pretty reasonable play. Okay, but here's an easy one with the improvement with the Subdredger. Nothing else we're really looking for. We don't want these ramp cards. We don't have anything that costs 8 anyways. And then these are the Static Shock is pretty low quality. Our Ezreal is kind of a side strategy now. So happy enough to let those go. But we'll continue to build to him to a degree, right? Harsh Winds is a fantastic late game spell, along with Brittle Steel. Feels pretty good to take those down. And okay, man, it's going to feel painful passing on this Mystic Shot, but I think we can, reasonably use Ezreal as a potential flip. What are we at? We've got 9 spells. I think if we cut out Time Trick, Shared Spoils, touch us down, Spoils of War, gets us to like 6 spells that are targetable, and then the 2 Ice Veil Archers with this pack. We're getting kind of close. It's not an ultra reliable one, but I think we should still build toward this to a degree. Okay, and then a Feline for a Ballistic Bot feels okay. I don't think we want Entreats. Bolt Elnick is a reasonable ground unit, but we don't have any combos going with that. Okay, so we do have to go and turn something premium. Let's see here. We got to keep on with the pay-to-win lifestyle. Oh, not Sherma. What are we at here? Piltover and Freylord. Let's see if we got any of these units to level up. Don't think we didn't take the Electro Rig. I think we saw one but didn't take it. So let's check out the spells. I don't know if we're gonna have any of these either. Oh, we got a Spoils of War. Ooh, saving my pocketbook today. All right, Spoils of War. Welcome to the premium squad. You gotta come in and save one of our Sumpworkers or something from a siphoning strike. We got to dream big when it comes to using these cards. Okay, so I mean, this is fine. I mean, I can throughout the course of our trade picks, I can easily see us being like, okay, does this let me, is this card I'm trading for a Sumpworker, something that lets me copy it, or something that lets me search for it? That would be kind of like tier 1. So our Sumpworkers, our iterative improvements, our Practical Perfectionist. I didn't say with Iterative Improvement, but you can target your opponent's unit with it, and that counts as an Ezreal target. And then, if otherwise, kind of tier 2 is it's something targetable. So a removal spell, a Frostbite Archer, just anything to try and boost up our Ezreal. I think that'll be fine. I think I'm on board with this. Was he playing Zed? Yes, so I want to hang on to the Brittle Steel just as a means to try and deal with their Zed early should they draw it. Okay, so we should be able to. He might get an attack in with Zed, but we should be able to deal with him. Whoa, Premium Diaz bringing out the Premium Sand Soldiers. I like your style, DG Jeremy. Excuse me. Whoa. Okay. I don't know about that. That was a little on the aggressive end of things, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Like, I don't think we want to get the ignitions going. It's just not ultimately super important right now. Okay, I usually don't recommend just running out Sumpworkers, but I don't think our opponent's going to be able to really, well, I don't think our opponent's going to be able to do anything about it until they add the Conspirator to the board. But I think I'm okay to caught in the cold here. We're maned up well enough to be able to both ignite and brittle steel, and then have reasonable plays on our future turns. Okay. This is all safe. Our opponent's out of mana, so we don't have to worry about any shenanigans. Oh shit, it's his attack token. Oh my god, what are we doing? What are we doing, people? I had all this set up thinking it was our attack token, and that is certainly not the case. I was like, why are you playing the Sandstone Chargers? Is it just out here to block? Alright. Classic plays from Bust here, just being abysmally bad. But hey, we made up for everything by just top decking a Sumpworks Posse because we deserved it. Oh jeez. See, this attack here on the right is why I don't really like these ground units when we're playing the Posse deck. They're just going to come out here and almost all the time just be able to block something, but all right. Got 2 of those Waking Sands? So many. Right, so I don't really intend to play Harsh Winds this turn. I'm kind of thinking of this as like, okay, what happens if our opponent plays like 2 Waking Sands? That's probably their big idea this turn. We can just block one of them with the Wild Claw. Whoa. Whoa, okay. Interesting. All right, so what we're going to try and do this turn now is I'm going to lead off with an Ignition, right? I want to give our opponent to play something better than these things on board. Maybe he'll play like his +3/+3 Zed, and then we'll be able to follow up with Sejuani. Does that change anything? I don't think. We can still start with the same idea here. We're going to Ignition and see if our opponent plays a unit, just to kind of maximize our options here with Sejuani, but I don't think we want to pivot to playing the second Sumpworker. Okay, this will work out. You can Sejuani right? Sejuani ability doesn't have the little circle on it, so this doesn't count as something that you can get spell shielded. Now, I did say that I think it works with Ezreal. Now that I start making this play, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't, but let's watch and see if this ticks up our Ezreal as a target. Oh, it does. Just does everything, huh? Cool. Pretty cool. We do have a good hook with this now. We need to hook the Ruin Runner with the Alpha Wild Claw. Okay, sweet, they're out of mana now. So, like, this is happening. This is happening. We can still attack with Sejuani. She'll chunk through 4 damage, assuming he blocks with the Charger. I think we just want to get in with everything. Just wipe this board out. Now that we're like doing this, how much would this have been had we said like Sejuani and Wild Claw hook the Ruin Runner with like Ballistic Pot? Where would that have gotten us? We got like 5 guaranteed. We'd need to get to 10. So we'd be at 12. We could only hit 8. Well, no, we could have lethaled here. That was a little sloppy. Right? If we say put the Ruin Runner down here with Patrol Wardens, we hooked the Charger with Sejuani, we hooked Azir with the Wild Claw. This would be 7 plus 5 be 12. Minus 6 would be 6 damage. 10. Oh, we'd be a little bit short. Okay. This is a pretty good looking board, though, isn't it? Pretty good looking board. Out of curiosity, how close is our Ezreal? He's up to 3. That's not bad. We have 2 choices here. I'm going to start with the Posse. I think we just want to Harsh Winds this turn instead of playing Wild Claws. But let's see. I wanted to see how they played this. All right. Looks good to me. That should be enough to do it. Lots of stuff one has to deal with next turn. When you have no board, it's kind of hard to do that. All right. Did we lose our phone? No, we're back. All right. Here comes the thunder. Oh, this is kind of interesting as well. It's not going to matter here, but with these Sumpworks posses, the first one in this situation would flip our Sejuani, and then the second one would frostbite our opponent's team. So the entirety of their blocks, if they had any, would have been frostbitten. Kind of cool. Kind of cool little synergies. Okay, so hopefully we got something good with Ezreal here. Ooh, another Sumpworker, and not upset to pick up Electro Rigs. So cool. Cool, just what we needed. Okay. Can this magic happen? 5 Sumpworkers. Good little number. I feel like we could flip an Ezreal today. I feel like it's a possibility. Okay. Oh, Vigio Shyvana Nocturne. Right. Well, that's how you start with some Sumpworkers. And this is kind of interesting in that we're on the odds, because you have to find these times to where you can play the Sumpworker where it won't get hit with a removal spell. And so it's like everybody doesn't pass on turn 1, but we're going to pass on turn 1, and then our opponent we'll assume play a 2-drop, and then we'll get to play our Sumpworker they won't have the mana to interact with it, and then we can open with the additional one. Oh snap! Oh man, that's a way to go about it right there. Tap out for something. Nice. Blocking. I think we want to get this thing on board. We can brittle steel next turn. I really like taking down the units against these Slayer style decks anyway, so they don't have any sacrificable stuff on the board. But look good now. Looking good. Get to kill off the aristocrat, put the damage on the abomination. Ooh, this thing's gonna die. This conservator isn't long for the world, and then we get to slap down on 2 more posses next turn. We're just lethal on turn 5 if he doesn't have a way to interact with us. Sounds pretty cool to me. So you do need to kind of like watch out for a blighted caretaker here. That would be problematic. Nah, some people in their desire to not have fun. Alright, we can brittle steel this down. Alright, so this can be kind of scary, right? If they have that that 2 damage Vigio card, that can be kind of suck for us. But let's do this. Let's see if we can't, find another one. Alright, we can pick up Ezreal. I guess he's the best. Is he the best choice out of this, or would we rather just have ballistic bots? I take Ezreal. And we may have even wanted shared spoils there, but Ezreal is a little bit expensive here. Okay. Now that I think about this more, I wonder if we should have played our unit. If we should have played the Perfectionist. I didn't stop to think about it too much because it was just like, well, they're just going to play a 3/3 and it's going to block, so we're not going to attack. So if we don't want to play in slow spells, then we want to open. But it can potentially just like ace a 2-attack unit. So there was some potential for good stuff there. Do we want any of these? Yeah, I'd say we'd be okay with picking up a Harsh Winds. Not super excited about that, but all right. But now we're in this spot to where we can flip the situation, right? We can get the Wild Claw both and Sejuani on the board. Get these overwhelms going. It's pretty good. You're just gonna Harsh Winds this? I think I'm okay with it. Would we rather just like stop one of them and just have like Sejuani Wild Claw ready for next turn? I think I'm okay with the Harsh Winds. Okay, I think the open here is probably pretty strong. He has to have an answer to both of our posses to not have a lethal here. Unspeakable Horror. Oh, it goes up to 1. Oh, that makes sense. Fine. It's just so awkward against these decks to want to play units without having the open. But I mean, with these overwhelms, it kind of feels appropriate. feel like we've given him an extra turn. Okay. Do we start with Sejuani now? Or would we rather play Sejuani next turn? I don't think they're ever like really wanting to attack here. Okay. Sad faces. I know. I know. Let's do this. We can just play everything here, including the Mystic Shot. So as long as we don't get popped by the Ruination, we should be okay here. Okay. Interesting time to do that. I was gonna say, do you want the Nightfall? Sure. That should do it.
Stop bragging if you can back it up.
Gotta find more stuff. Born for conquest. This is your end.
That should do it. Okay, oh, got an emote. He dropped one. There we go, kitty cat. Whew, okay, so yeah, we probably gave him an extra turn in that, but we were able to take the victory in the end. What do we got here? Additional sump workers. You got it. Up to 6. Feels nice. Off we go. Yeah, this is come together nicely. I mean, I think the last time getting my videos mixed up. I think when we drafted the sump workers on Twitch, I think we ended up with like 4 or 5. But then I feel like the last time I put together the Echo trial, I think we drafted like 6 or 7. I'd love to get that into the double digits. Okay, Tarek and Lulu with Freylord attached. Here we can full mulligan this hand. Just I think given the number of sump workers we have, we prefer to do our best to find them. Didn't happen, but reasonable enough hand otherwise. Uh-oh. Frightened Dibex making Tayari a real unit since 2021. Okay, then we're not going to add this Ezreal just yet. I'm going to switch over to Patrol Wardens. So I guess we will get to find out if the swap bot counts as an Ezreal target. Maybe. Maybe. Okay. Sump worker number 1. So what do we think about actually swapping the swap bot with Tarek? Doesn't seem that great. What do we think further if we do it post-combat? And maybe he'll be like a 4/7 or something if he tries to play a Zenith Blade on him. I think we might be able to get something out of this. Let's give it some time. Like a shredder here. Kills the archer. Turns Tarek block onto Patrol Warden's bad. I dig this. Cool, cool. Get to shredding, bruh. Is this one of Echo's friends? Looks like he would hang out with Echo. I'm not familiar with the lore or anything, but looks like they'd be buddies, put together a band. Uh-oh. Something's happening. Okay. We'll swap for this Tarek at some point. He's getting the stat mountain over here. It should be pretty obvious to our opponent that we have a 1-mana combat trick, given the way that we've passed with this 1-mana up and all these opportunities to play a ignition and just not doing it. So should be obvious, I would think. Okay, then we gotta do something here. Do we? Do we want to just fall to 7? Ugh. This thing a forever? Give me and my supported ally, so we can take it down in combat next turn. Okay. Yeah, it counts for Ezreal. Cool. Too bad we don't have a removal for this thing, but good otherwise. And then I think I want to go ahead and just drop a Sumpworker. Our opponent shouldn't be able to interact with this thing very favorably. Okay, I'm on board. Is playing spoils more important than playing the Alpha Wildclaw? I don't think so. So let's get this going. I'm planning on just playing Caught in the Cold this turn as well. And take down this Taric. This is good. And I think from this turn forward, we'll start to we'll start to play our ignitions every turn. We're not going to play it like pre-combat because I still want a Brittle Steel, but we're getting to the point to where we have enough mana to play this every turn and play our other stuff. So. How greedy do we want to get with this Taric as well? That's a valid question. Like, ideally, we would be able to just throw Patrol Wardens in front of him, but if he gets like a +3/+3 or something, then it feels pretty bad. I think I'm going to use the Wild Claw so that if he barriers, we can still get some damage in. It feels better than if we hit it with the Swap Bot and just get nothing. Interesting. He chooses to take down our big unit as opposed to protecting Taric. So I wonder if he just has another Taric in his hand. Okay, we're going to play the Ignition here. If we want to Spoils of War, then we get the big stat boost out of this thing now. Okay. I feel like this is just going to be a Harsh Winds turn, though. Right, we can make 2/4 makes our Sumpworker a 3/6, so it could block the Sisters without dying, but it doesn't seem super impressive. Like this is happening. This will die to a Pale Cascade, which is a bit unfortunate, but I think it's manageable. We can risk the Sumpworker as well. Okay, so if we lose our Wild Claw to a Pale Cascade, this is a pretty painful one, but say if it survives this combat, this looks pretty strong for us. The new downside to this board is the Silver Sister returns to her full size, given the units we have, it's kind of tough to deal with. But I'm going to Ignite. I'm going to play the Shared Spoils, see what unit we draw. Okay. Zevi. Interesting. I think I like it. I think I like the Zevi more than the Shared Spoils or Ezreal. Ezreal's just never attacking through Silver Sister. Damn. I would assume this is going to be a 3 damage onto our Ballistic Bot. Okay.
More equipment for the field.
Oof. Ooh, that's a big draw. We can survive this. That'll be big. I was leaning towards like playing Ezreal so that we can flip into his flip card to be Mystic Shot. If we can Mystic Shot the Silver Sister, then we can hit it with Brittle Steel. But that requires our opponent to play a bunch of cards. I'm not real confident in that ever playing out. Okay, we just have to no block here. If we skip here, then they can't play. They can't play any combat tricks. Shouldn't be able to just go dome with anything here. They shouldn't have any rallies. I think this is all okay.
Raise evening star to crown the night.
Nice. Ooh, feels good.
I knew we had it all along.
I knew we had it all along. Such truth, Ezreal. All right, so let's pick up the last one here. Not the strongest of Ezreals, but it's not like we're getting a Sumpworker down here with Echo, and it does have a Perfectionist with it. So easy enough for me. There we go. Interesting. The two new champions together. The old Action Vigio combo. All right. This is not a good one. I think again, for like a lot of these decks, I'm willing to just hang out with pretty much any 2-drop, but with this one in particular, I think we want to just try and chase down the Sumpworkers. Found one. This hand's not as good as I'd hoped. Things like Spoils of War are not something I'm really looking to start with. All right, well, an interesting decision we'll have to make if we don't pick up another Sumpworker, if we want to try and Electro rig them. And let's see how it goes. I don't feel like this is particularly strong. All right, let's try it and see what happens. All right, we'll shuffle them in, my man. There we go. The way it was meant to be. I'm gonna go ahead and just slam this. I want to ensure that we get our unit on the board. We can potentially do some battle here. Let's just take the 5. We'll protect our caravan here and throw it down for a block. Now the attack next turn with the 1 damage from the posse should be enough to take down the dragon. The only downside to this kind of play is if they have a black spear to try and ace our posse. Okay. Well, we still got a bunch of them in our deck, so hopefully we can just make it through this. This right here is what you are classically supposed to be doing with the with the cloning program deck, is shuffling those Yetis into your deck. Oh man, can't answer Vigio. This is painful. All right, well, we immediately drew the Yeti, which is good. I'd probably rather just get Zevi on the board though. We could take a 5 hit. This isn't bad. We do have to worry about these decks having
I'll build it.
oh, what's it called? Atrocities? But just letting him take down our unit for free just doesn't feel very worthwhile. And at least with this board now, if everything goes according to plan, we can play both Wildclaw and Yeti next turn. We can Cotton the Cold Vigio, and hopefully be sending multiple units that interact favorably with this dragon into combat. So we'll see what happens. Interesting he did that post-combat. I guess he wanted the open.
I could use 2 of me.
Let's add the Yeti. I mean, what do we could, double Perfectionist here, which doesn't actually seem that bad. They interact favorably with everything on his board. Okay, let's do it.
See you soon, friendos.
So there goes copies of the posse. We'll play the second one here. This is what we'll actually be drawing next turn. More posses. Works for me. That auto pass for him? I wasn't paying enough attention. How greedy are we going to get? Are we going to send a Perfectionist in? I think so. I mean, our only other good choice is the Yeti. Okay. Seems like it's going well, right? He's just lining up these trades like he doesn't have a trick. F. Okay, Ruthless Predator's fine. So as long as that Vigio is going away, I don't really mind what's happening here. Okay, seems like a reasonable enough board. We know we're drawing Sumpworkers, and hopefully we'll continue to draw some more. As long as, Zevi doesn't die, there's a good chance that we just have 4 of them on the board next turn, which would be pretty sweet. I did the mathematics on the level of sweetness there, and it's pretty high. I don't know what he's passing for here, but we have to throw our posses down there fleeting. We can't just let the turn end. Gotta block this as well. I don't know what I'm missing here. He's doing something to be clever, but it's not immediately coming to mind what it is. I would assume it's like something to do with vulnerables. Just actual nothing.
More equipment for the field.
I mean, okay. I feel like there's something we're missing. I just don't get it. Okay. So this is only 15. We need to... We can't lethal this turn, right? Oh. Yeah, we can get real close. We want to just be drawing more Zevis here? We got to shuffle something with the Electro Rig. And then do we just stop here because it's never lethal? I like it. That 4th posse would have been pretty choice, though. Am I right? So we'll take him to 4. Okay, this is fine. I mean, we could have ultimately taken him to 1. I don't want a big stack of damage on this Zevi. I like the card advantage we're generating out of this. Excuse me. It's hopefully not relevant, but. Excuse me. Okay. All right. Not exactly posses, but serviceable as posses. Nice. Whew, okay. So, what do we think of any of these? Not real interested in any of this. We have our targetable for Ezreal. I don't want to trade away. Flash freeze. I mean, it's kind of interactive, but I think I'd rather have the way to search up the Sumpworks than the flash freeze. And we're good on our top end here with our 2 Wild Claws and 1 Sejuani. So we'll just skip over all these. Right. Got to get a flipped Ezreal at some point, right? So maybe we could have gone for it a couple games ago, but I feel like if we're wanting to call this an Ezreal build around, we gotta at least get the 6 targets in one game. Oh man, the struggles. Leg is itching. Some kind of bug got me. All right, here we go. Lux with Katarina. All right, same deal. Y'all know what's happening. We're looking for the posse. Found one. But I mean, so who do we start with here? Do we just want to go with the ballistic pot, or do we want to bank? Let's just bank. Okay. Like we're just gonna put the ballistic bot on a board and have it not do anything. That doesn't seem ideal. But now, like we can play the perfectionist, and if we predict into a sump worker, we can get them going next turn. We didn't hit the sump worker, but we found the iterative improvement, which lets us do the same thing.
It's like tomorrow, but in triplicate.
The beauty of having the banked spell mana.
Hey Bo, that thing that happened last time totally won't happen again.
The fuck kind of noises are you making? All right, good deal. Here comes the squad.
Gotta find more.
What is this?
Right, the magic's starting to happen. How far you need, Ezreal? He needs. All right, we got 0 targets, 6 to go. You're right on track to being flipped. Okay, we showcase this frequently. The ice spell archer, the Sejuani, they don't target, and so we can pop through spell shields. So we can hit this one, then we'll just start blasting next turn with the posses. We do have like a real question as to whether or not we want to open next turn, because we're just 2 damage short, and then we could kill with an Ezreal. Well, okay. I mean, okay. See what kind of spell you play? Strength in numbers or something here. All right, center brings down a stun. So what can we get away with here? We can break the spell shield and put a damage on the fused firebrand, but he's gonna have good blockers everywhere else. We can add Ezreal for a mystic shot we can't play. I think do we want a ballistic bot? So get the ignitions going after this turn. Okay. Messes with things a little bit, but not horribly. Okay. there's at least some of the minor punishes from not opening. I'm always glad to see it happen on occasion. Shouldn't say I'm glad to see it, but we want to ignite, or do we want to just go ahead and caught in the cold something? We have great blockers here. Let's just go ahead and play Ignition. So if we want to Spoils of War, we can play the big one. Can't get any spells this turn. We have a pretty good looking open next turn. $10? Okay. Let's do this the proper way. So we'll get the old Ezreal Reno going. Now we'll just open and hopefully have enough. We can like concerted strike through a piece of this next turn, but between the two pings, the Mystic Shot from Ezreal, the Ignition, hopefully we're just close enough, even if he has some combat tricks here. Cool. Ezreal is victorious. Woo woo. Okay, so do we want any of these? Ballistic Bot, no. Get rid of Brittle Steel, no. And Shatter, no. Okay, easy set of skips. Okay. The pre-final battle is upon us. Hydrate a little bit and get ready for it. Okay. More of the old Riven action. We got a Sumpworker in our start. Look at us. Okay. So I don't see us doing too much in the early game here. Most certainly don't want to be dropping Sumpworkers against decks that have tons of vulnerables in them. So we can just do the full bank again. The Sump Dredger is reasonable enough to get on board. Or do we want to just go ahead and drop Ezreal? Let's just go ahead and drop Ezreal. He can. The Mystic Shot seems pretty good here. Then if we, magically top deck another Sumpworker, then we have a pretty strong board. I don't think we're looking to make a big value play here. We can just throw us in the sense that we can discard Mystic Shot to the Sump Dredger, but I think this is fine. I'm just going to discard Alpha Wild Claw to it. Or would we? Let's actually discard this. Do you want to discard the Shredder? It's going to be one of these two expensives that we're getting rid of. It's just like I could see the AOE being good, but not until we have another Sumpworker. So yeah, okay. Okay, so Reforge number 1. We should be safe from the swords for a while. Let's see what they do. We want to go ahead and just do this now, so that we can well, she's gonna just hook Ezreal, right? I think I like just doing this now. Well, this can have problems. If they have a combat trick, I guess this fails a bit. But at the end of the day, the thing I'm looking for here is being able to block Riven with our Sump Dredger. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case, but we could still get out of this with a Brittle Steel. Oh, that's it? That's all you're bringing? how much do we care? That's the question of the day. I don't think we care a whole lot. Let's go ahead and finish this combat off. That attack, is that even enough to kill our Ezreal? I didn't quite catch how much that was for. Okay. So it's time for this. This could be slightly awkward. Okay, beautiful. And say if they had like a siphoning strike or something, we didn't have any plays to get out of it, but look good now. Okay. Draw a card while you're at it. I guess this is a good match to talk about it. One of the commenters was asking why I prefer action over Riven. I think it popped up in one of the previous videos, but my problem with Riven, I attribute this to say like Tarmogoyf and Magic, right? I concede that that Tarmogoyf is a good Magic card, but I just don't like it because it doesn't do anything, right? It's just you're paying for efficiency of stats, and it's not a unit that comes down and does something. Like with all these units we have here, it's like this, cycles. Ezreal generates Mystic Shots and does the flip thing with the spells. The Posse does the AoE. The Ballistic Bot generates, the ignitions. Like these all do something, and to a degree, like yes, Riven generates the reforges. And like in my mind now, like she's a little better than she used to be now that she can get a reforge the turn that you play her, and so she's moving farther away from can't do anything territory to just being an efficient Badger Bear to now that she gets these more reforges going. It's kind of getting into more of a unit territory. But kind of like my difference between these two units is if we say take like a comparison to LeBlanc or a comparison to Draven, like Riven's not that much better than those units. We can just take this, but when it comes to action, there's not a whole lot of units that do what he does, right? That's having like this card draw ability that has some other stuff attached to it. He's a 2/2 quick attack in a faction that has really very few good 2-drops, and it has very few. Well, it has very few 2-drops in general. A few of them just aren't any good. And so he fills in that role. There's a ton of vulnerables in here. There's just a ton of stuff that action does that you don't get from the other factions in the game, or the other cards in the game. Where even if, as far as Riven's concerned, like if you're playing the 4/3 Overwhelm for 3, that's pretty comparable to what Riven is going to be doing. And so again, it's like I'm not saying that Riven is bad. I'm just saying that I prefer action over Riven because the gaps he fills in the deck aren't things that Riven doesn't quite fill in, and so just a preferred unit to me. But back to this is reasonably strong. With the blocks he's setting up here, we should be able to Mystic Shot down this Riven, and then we're wanting to save Harsh Winds for like opponent's turn, but doesn't look like we need to do that. So that was a little bit of sloppy of an explanation, but that's kind of the idea, right? Is Riven just feels like a loyal Badger Bear with a little bit more. That's not really what I'm wanting out of a champion card. Whereas action, he just has so many unique effects that we don't get out of Shurima that he feels pretty tough to replace. But here, dropping the curve down with the Icevale Archer for the Shredder feels good. Gives us another targetable thing. We're sticking to our Ezreals, so we don't want to do that. And I don't think we want this Insightful Investigator. We just haven't had the mana to ever really get this thing going, so I'll hang on to the Shared Spoils. Okay, don't want the Reaver, don't want the Shredder. Spoils of War, it's like I'm kind of okay to trade away. This is not very good in our deck. Well, that's tough. The Perfectionist is, lets us work towards our sump workers, but this is our singular harsh winds. I think we want to hang on to it. Caught in the cold is fine. Don't want the Reaver. Okay, we can skip over those. I think we want to continue to skip. I'm not opposed to trading out these Patrol Wardens for suit ups. These do help with like our open attack style things, and they help protect our sump workers. I think this is probably okay. Not a huge fan of suit up, but one copy seems okay. But here, the Patrol Wardens for Perfectionist feels pretty good. And our last one, don't want Echo, don't want Elnick, don't want Ember Maiden. Alrighty. Okay. So yeah, kind of like back to the action thing. It's like seeing all those echoes roll through here. Like this is a deck. Well, I'm trying to think if it's comparable. I guess it's not like super comparable with the action aggro deck as opposed to what we're doing here. That's trying to make the point that like the champion doesn't really matter in this deck. We don't really care if we're playing Ezreal or Echo, or we could even play like Heimerdinger if we wanted to. But it's like the Shurima Noxus deck tends to just be like an aggro deck, at least the way I like to build it. Right? I'm a big supporter of going heavily into the two Reforged units along with Legion Drummer and the Challenger, the Trifarian Glory Seeker. I think that's like the real core of the deck, and I'm rarely looking to build towards Riven Swords. I'm usually just looking to build to quick attacks, but it's like one of these things to where I feel like the Riven Sword is typically a little too all in for my tastes, and so I can see that it's good. There's a lot of decks that just can't beat a Riven Sword, but it's just not stylistically my thing. I think it's one of those places where style shouldn't matter. Kind of like in the sense of there's always a best deck for a tournament, right? If you're going to go to a tournament, there should be a best deck. It shouldn't matter whether or not you prefer to play aggro decks or control decks or combo decks or mid-range decks. There should be a singular deck that is the best deck for that tournament. But, if you're playing a Magic Grand Prix and you're suiting up to play 15 to 18 rounds of Magic, you don't want that 2 days to be lined up with just decks that you hate. So, sometimes it's okay to take off a few percentage points for your own mental well-being. And that's how I kind of feel a little bit about the Riven Sword. It's not good for my mental well-being to try and get that going. But all right, back to the action here. What was this guy even doing? Digio with Zoe? Okay. All right, we'll continue to bank. Getting the aggros on us. Where you at, Sump Workers? Those aren't the Sump Worker. Do we ever want to just boost Sejuani? It's either Sejuani or nothing. And I don't really want Sejuani. I think I'm just going to skip over these. I feel like if the game goes to a point to where Sejuani's good, we're probably just not winning. Okay, this is fine to me. There's our boy. I think we'll probably just wait till next turn, though.
Okay, got it. I think maybe.
Okay. Ideally, we'll be able to full clear this board next turn. if they can't interact with us, and we just get to take everything down with the posses, that would be pretty sweet. Not gonna lie about the level of sweetness that would be. He's got the crumble or something here. We can beat a crumble if he tries to get greedy with it. It was like I was salivating at the idea that he would play a crumble off the aristocrat, and we got to counter it with the static shock. Not happening that way. And Vigio. Okay. See if the big boy Wild Claw's enough to keep the attacks from happening here. First round, or each round, the first time an ally dies, you summon the mists. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And the Yeti on top. Okay, you're not super important here, but it does give us a unit that we can throw down on the board before we try to play the Sumpworkers. So we can say, yeah, no, I don't have it, my man. I assure you, I don't have it. It's gonna crumble us off of our own Wild Claw. It's kind of annoying. Interesting, and he didn't Spirit Leech our Wild Claw. Okay. How sick is this going to be if we pop on this time trick? Oh, one time dealer. Missed. Okay. We'll take the shared spoils. Hopefully we can redraw into another posse that way. Oh, we really needed 2 on this board though. But at least when we get our Wild Claw back at the end of the day. Okie dokie. I mean, we get the Wild Claw back, and then we have good targets with our Static Shock. Seems good. I think he probably misclicked on that Spirit Leech or something. I'm not sure why he would have not killed off our Wild Claw. Looks like he's going to get a 3 damage. Okay. So we get 9. We can play all 3 cards, right? Ezreal, Shock is 7, Posse takes us to 9. Could Mystic Shot, Static Shock, and just take Vigio down as well. Let's see what opponent does. I'd like to see him tap out for something irrelevant. That's that's what we're always hoping for, right? If they tap out for something irrelevant. That's pretty much it. So with this thing on the stack, we want to play our Mystic Shot. You can get out of this with like an Absorbed Soul, right? But this way we should get the kill onto Vigio before his cards come down. 3 targets for Ezreal as well. Okay. All right, but back to the spot to where... ooh, Atrocity. Okay. I'm going to say we're back to the spot to where our attacks aren't that interesting, because we just AoE all of his blockers, but this is looking good. I think we want to switch over to Harsh Winds here. The singular posse is not that big of a deal. And I want to like protect ourselves from these atrocities and... I was going to say, he's going to have a good block on the Perfectionist, but the rest of these blocks are all garbage. Okay. And then we're pretty well safe from the big KOs you would have in like Atrocity. Now that we're drawing Harsh Winds, I think think we're pretty good here. He's tapped out, so we'll send Mystic Shot to face. Draw our Harsh Winds. See if we can't get a kill with the open attack. I think you would want to behold the infinite first. All right, and if he doesn't concede, we can technically flip our Ezreal, and that's been a goal for a large portion of this game. What would even want here? Like Meteor Shower would be good. We're getting that the flips are happening. Okay. Is that it? Is that all you're bringing? All right. It's actually a relevant flip too, because it kills the Mask Mother now. Highly appropriate. All right, all right. I think we're good now. I think we're good. And additional Harsh Winds should one need it. Okay. Living Legend signifies that this game's over. There's nothing you can play off of those. All right, draw it. Got him. We got him, squad. Oop. Perfection. Cool. That was a fun one. I had fun with that trial. Let's get this pulled up and we could talk about it a little bit more. Oh yeah, good job, Ezreal. And so yeah, it was kind of an interesting one in that I didn't really intend to draft around the Sumpworkers. Again, we talk about this frequently, where it's if you want to maximize a specific card, you can't take your core champion's partner pairing as far as factions go. And so if we took Ezreal and wanted to build to Sumpworkers, then we shouldn't have been taking Freylord, right? Because as every time we're going through the pick phase, if we have the cloning program pack show up, we want that cloning program pack to be Piltover, because the Piltover is where the Kyrie and Sumpworker is. If the Freylord pack comes up for cloning program, then there's a 0% chance we get a Sumpworker that pick. And so if the actual build around it and most important thing for us to find is Kyrie and Sumpworker, we want to maximize our chances of finding it, then we don't take Freylord. But given how these packs fell, that was a different story, right? When we have one pick 3, pick 4, and pick 5. Granted, to push my agenda a little bit, I think a lot of these came out of Time Lords packs, but that did kind of indicate that, okay, well, maybe we do have to build around the Sumpworker immediately starting out with 3, and so that does kind of pivot how your draft is going to have to go, because it's such an important build around card. Once you start down that path of having Sumpworkers, you have to maximize your chances of getting them. And so the best way to do that, in my opinion, is iterative improvement. This is a card that, if we want to make comparisons to cards we don't want, that would be counterfeit copies, right? Counterfeit copies seems like it fits on theme with this, but you have to physically draw the card, and then you have to have the Sumpworkers in your hand while you have the counterfeit copies to do it, and then that just improves the quality of your deck. It doesn't do anything to improve the quality of your board. And then on the other side of the coin with counterfeit copies, how horrible is the top deck of counterfeit copies on turn 8? It feels horrible. But if we look at a card like Iterative Improvement, this is good throughout every stage of the game. If we draw it late, we can copy the best unit on the board. Or if we draw it early in conjunction with the Sumpworker, then we can immediately make a copy and try to get the flip going. And so the Iterative Improvement is the kind of card we want. Practical Perfectionist is the kind of card that we want. This has the Predict attached to it and makes the additional copies. These two cards are your your bread and butter as far as creating additional copies of the Sumpworker. With cards like Time Trick, I think should be mentioned. This is a one of the better predicts and one of the better ways to actually find the Sumpworkers. It's just this does take up quite a bit of your mana to try and pull that off, and so this is something I don't go out of our way to find, but it's not something that I directly avoid like we would with counterfeit copies. And so otherwise, I mean, the rest of the copying cards are fine. Like if we're looking at Parade Electro Rig, it's a 6-stat 3-drop with some upside, and so we're never going to be upset to have this in our deck. It does kind of do this copying thing, but it's not one of the big ones. The big ones to tier everything off is the Sumpworker is your S tier choice. You'll take it with anything. You'll trade anything away for it. Then your next most important cards are going to be Iterative Improvement and Practical Perfectionist. And so that's really the core of building the Sumpworker deck. It applies whether or not you're drafting Ezreal, if you're drafting Echo out of Time Lords, same thing. Those tiers don't change if you're building to the Sumpworker. Now, the kind of interesting thing that we had with this deck is, how do we also build around Ezreal? I think I've, mentioned we are building to Ezreal as kind of like a sub-strategy, but we don't want to be all in on it. And so that was how we ended up with the Sejuani, was the means to put ourselves in Freylord so we could potentially build around Ezreal. Things kind of got off the rails with this triple Sumpworker start. But the idea here is still good. You want to either have units that target your opponent's units, or you want to have spells that target multiple things. And so Freylord has 3 of those. There's the Iceveil Archer that targets. There's the Avarosian Marksman that only lives in the Cloning Program card pool, but it targets to deal the 1 damage. And then there's Harsh Winds to get a multi-target. And so if you've ever played Ezreal before, or if you've played any of these things that want you to just like tick up by playing a bunch of cards, you can't. Lee Sin's the common one, right? But you can't just be playing spell after spell after spell after spell after spell. You just drain your hand out before you're able to really get it going. But if you're adding units like Iceveil Archer to the board that can still come down and interact while kind of casually leveling up your Ezreal, that's kind of the way to do it. And so I think, I wish we would have had access to more iterative improvements. This is kind of the bridge between the 2 card pools here, and that we can play iterative improvement on our Sumpworker, or we can actually target our opponent's units with this to get an Ezreal tick and then get a unit while we're at it. That is kind of the whole idea around this style of deck. But the last thing I'll say before we part ways with this one is I really try to avoid the expensive cards in these. We talked about it a little bit, but as you can see in a lot of those games, it gets a little awkward, as far as these expensive cards go, because you're kind of this like aggro combo deck, and you just don't have time to be dropping a whole lot of late game plays. I think we had one game where we got 2 Wild Claws, or maybe a Wild Claw Sejuani, but in general, you have time for one. The game is usually over at this point, and so almost every time, if it comes down, would you rather play a 6-drop or a 2 and a 4? You would rather do the 2 and a 4. And so I concede that you should have, some of this late game, but you don't really need a whole lot of it. And then ideally, we talked about the easy blocks your opponent's going to get with the Sumpworker, kind of making a lot of your attacks irrelevant. You do want this top end that you have to either have Overwhelm or to have Elusive. And so things like Alpha Wildclaw and Sejuani were great. Mechanist Zevi is a great example of a card that we would not want. She played fantastically here that one game we drew her, but this is a card that it's just going to attack and get blocked by an opponent's unit with 1 health. And so as a aggro/combo deck, that's not what you're trying to pull off. Whew, but cool. Nice little trial. Nice little 7-0-7 winner. That was a fun one. And so looks like we got some shiny stuff on here, so we may have a box to click on. I think I saw on Reddit that the Scourge or the Shadow Isles or whatever it's called won the Sentinels event. I thought that was horse shit, if you ask me. We were here on the Senna side of things, and so we should have won, because that was who I picked. Right? But anyways, here with the rewards, we got a unit. So welcome to the Prismatic Land, Porofly. Maybe you'll have your time in the sun the next time we see Braum. But that will do it for us today. So I hope you learned to visit the sump a little bit better. You learned a thing or two along the way. Had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.